Welcome to Misinformation 101, where I attempt to clear up falsehoods that you have been fed about the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni situation. Now, these falsehoods are going to be from questions that I get constantly in my comments section on the videos that I make about the situation. In all seriousness, I really do appreciate the comments and questions that people leave, even if it is misinformation. How else are people going to learn what exactly is going on in the situation if they don't ask? I know there is a ton of misinformation, fear-mongering, hate, you name it, going around about this situation. So as long as the questions are posed respectfully, I always try and answer them. No hate towards these people at all. That's why I blacked out their screen names, but they just posed good questions that a lot of people were asking. So this person says, they should have some sort of evidence to warrant a subpoena. Otherwise, she's fishing and causing undue stress on innocent people. This is referring to the content creators that were included in the subpoenas to Google, X, and TikTok. So as you know, Blake Lively's team sent subpoenas to certain social media companies for specific content creators' basic information. And when I say basic information, I don't mean that it's not private. I mean it's basic for those websites to gather that information from them. What they were asking for were usernames, addresses, phone numbers, bank number or credit card number, not statements, not banking information, just the number they used to receive payment from whatever platform they were on. IP address, which tells the location they were at when they uploaded information. All of this is basic information that you allowed these social media apps to gather from you when you signed on. So the first part of this says she should have some sort of evidence to warrant a subpoena. How do we know she doesn't? We have no idea why she subpoenaed those specific content creators. Was it because they were posting all of the same rumors that were going around at that time? Was it because they were on a list that was received from Jed Wallace or Melissa Nathan or Wayfair or Stephanie Jones? Was it because those content creators said the exact same thing as some of the other ones that they know are involved in this? We don't know, and we're not going to know unless it's put in the court docket for us to read. What we do know, however, is there's 100% a reason they were included. We just don't know what that is. Whether it's one of the ones I listed or something else, there was a reason. And it wasn't just because they were talking negatively about Blake, because if that was the case, there would have been a lot more people included. The second part says, otherwise she's fishing and causing undue stress on innocent people. Now, a subpoena kind of is fishing. You issue a subpoena and you're hoping to get back the evidence you need, but you don't always know if it's there or not. And it appears that's what's kind of going on with these content creators. Some of them say they have had no contact whatsoever with Justin Baldoni's team, and perhaps that's the truth. But either way, she needed to find out in her litigation because that's how these things work. And just a side note as well, saying undue stress on innocent people, we don't know who's innocent and who's not. We don't know who is involved in an alleged PR smear campaign or not. We listen to them online and we tend to want to believe them because we enjoy their content, but we really don't know who is innocent and who's not. And comment number 2 is this one. A lot of people have been making comments similar to this. It says, so Blake brought people into it as a stunt, then wants to just brush it off, that she made them waste money getting legal representation. No, she owes them and should pay them back. So again, these content creators weren't the ones being subpoenaed. Google, X, and TikTok were, but those companies notify the people included in the subpoena just so they're aware that some of their information is being gathered for a litigation. Subpoenas are an extremely common event in litigation, as I'm sure everybody's aware. So this is not a stunt. This is her having to gather her evidence for the PR smear campaign and the retaliation that she's alleging against Justin Baldoni and his team. Then wants to just brush it off. So I'm assuming they're referring to the fact that she has relieved some of them or dismissed some of them from the subpoenas to Google, TikTok, and X. Blake's team hasn't brushed anything off. In fact, those subpoenas are still in place. Some of those content creators, however, have been dismissed from the subpoena because they've worked hard to remove their names from that for one reason or another. Some of them ended up filing a motion to quash. Some of them ended up posting public statements explaining they had nothing to do with Team Justin or anybody else. And some of them had their lawyers or themselves meet with Blake Lively's team over Zoom or whatever other device and did meet and confers. You may recall in those Google, TikTok, and X subpoenas, they were not asking for content. They were not asking for statements from content creators. They were not asking for affidavits. Nothing. What they were asking from those social media companies, again, was just their basic info. Names, addresses, phone numbers, IP address, information like that. So these content creators ended up having meet and confers or motions to quash where they gave a ton more information than Blake's team was ever even looking for. And it's because of that that they were able to have their names removed from the subpoenas to these social media companies. They were released from that because Blake's team was able to receive the information that they were looking for, whether it was an address or a phone number or perhaps a sworn affidavit from them stating they had no contact with Justin Baldoni's team or this alleged PR smear campaign. As for this next part that says she made them waste money getting legal representation, no, she owes them and should pay them back. She didn't make anyone spend money. In fact, I would be more apt to say that anti-Blake creators on here doing fear-mongering are the ones that made them spend money on this situation. Those content creators weren't in any trouble. They weren't being silenced. Their content wasn't being questioned. Their content wasn't being collected, except for a few on TikTok. I believe there were 6 that were subpoenaed and parts of their content were being asked for whatever reason. But again, they weren't in any trouble. They weren't even really being subpoenaed. It was a social media app that was being subpoenaed, and they were a part of it for basic information. Not one of those content creators needed to spend a penny on this situation. They didn't need to fight this subpoena. What is the point of fighting the subpoena when only your basic information is going to Blake Lively's legal team to help her litigation? It wasn't going to be released in the court docket. It wasn't going to be presented anywhere except to these lawyers to help them with this case, finding evidence against an alleged PR smear campaign and retaliation. Now, don't get me wrong. They had every right to do what they did. If they wanted to hire a lawyer or file a motion to quash on their own, that is completely their right. If they weren't comfortable with their information being given to someone, that's their legal right to fight that. But Blake Lively's not asking them to spend any money. That was up to them. If they wanted to fight it, they totally could. But again, I'm pretty sure it was because of fear-mongering. Every video I have watched from the anti-Blake content creators, especially those big 4, was them going on and on about freedom of speech and their content's their own and they're allowed to post whatever they want. Of course they are. Blake's not telling them not to. She just wants to be able to protect herself and find evidence for her litigation, and a subpoena is how you do that. And to finish off this first episode of Misinformation 101, we'll do one more. The very first comment in this, it says, literally, what a hypocrite. Blake now wanting to sanction someone else when she's glazing over people's motions to sanction her. This is referring to the fact that Blake Lively's team has now filed to sanction Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, over public statements he's been making in the public against Blake Lively. As you know, Brian Friedman was extremely vocal about this situation in the press for quite some time until Blake Lively's team took him to court and asked the judge to put an order in place that prevented him from being unprofessional and talking about the situation inappropriately in public. And that was put in place in February. Blake's team alleges that Brian Friedman has continued to do that in the public, and they've had enough. They've filed a letter in the court today listing all the times and all the things that Brian Friedman has said about Blake in the public. They want to file a sanction because they claim this breaches the court order of getting him to be professional in public. They are asking now for him to possibly have to pay her legal fees because of this. This comment is trying to compare that situation to the situation with the content creators who hired lawyers, and they're now trying to file sanctions to get Blake Lively to cover their legal fees. But again, no one made them hire a lawyer. No one made them fight that subpoena. It is not the same thing at all. That's it for the first round of hopefully clearing up some misinformation. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful. If you have questions, if you've been seeing misinformation and you're not sure exactly what the scoop is, drop it in the comments and I can share your question on here for another round. Maybe put like hashtag the recap with Julie or something, and then I'll know that you want me to answer your question in one of these sessions. As always, I will continue to update as soon as anything else comes out about this case, but for now, make sure to hit that plus button and follow along for updates.